Alright, it's the Wild Vortex, and I thought I'd do a normal vlog where I just reel off a bunch of thoughts from my head, stream of consciousness. Today I'm going to talk about something I'm only really touching the surface of in terms of reading about it, which is Solarpunk, because I've been quite embroiled in the world of Cyberpunk and their general dystopian trends in fiction for the last few years, and whether it be through media, writing, literature, philosophy, or this sort of thing. But I've only recently been introduced to this concept, or this movement called Solarpunk, which is a sort of counter vision in a lot of respects to the often dystopic vision that is Cyberpunk. And I just wanted to talk a little bit today about my initial thoughts towards Solarpunk and why I'm getting increasingly interested in it as an actual alternative framework for trying to fix the very fundamental problems that we encounter today as, millennials, or not even millennials, not even a generational thing, even more just everybody in general. Basically, the environmental troubles we have, the problems of widening inequality, and the problems of how we basically create a better, more sustainable world. I mean, this is one of the key issues of the world at the minute. It doesn't necessarily mean that, not everybody thinks that would necessarily involve new forms of distribution. But Solarpunk, from what I understand, generally speaking, does think that we need to rethink the entire economic system of the world, rely obviously less on fossil fuels, turn to more alternative forms of energy production, and generally become more community focused from the bottom up. So it's actually sort of it seems to me from my initial reading that it is very based on theoretical leftism and theoretical socialism, and maybe even anarchism in some respects. So that's interesting territory for me. I'm very interested in all that world of theory. So, and I do prefer it to the sort of cyberpunk vision of the future, which, I mean, it's interesting the change that's gone on with cyberpunk as a genre of late, because basically when most cyberpunk writers started writing cyberpunk, I don't think they were necessarily saying this is a roadmap for this sort of futurist libertarian capitalist system that we want to create, where it's sort of like corporate power rules, there's a massive inequality, dystopian, there's a sort of hacktivist sort of counterculture going on towards these forms of authoritarian government in one way or another. That's usually how cyberpunk is. It's a sort of dark technological age. And Solarpunk, from what I've been able to look into, seems to be a nicer sort of like more eco-socialist sort of alternative to that darker vision of where the future might go, and it's coming. I mean, Gibson, as much people might not particularly like his writing, but he got a lot of things. He didn't get them exactly right. When does a writer get futurist, speculative writing exactly right? But he got a lot of things. He did, in a sense, predict the future that we're going into with big five tech corporations and sort of big data society, and we're not there yet. Obviously, I know we're not living in a Blade Runner. I'm not dumb to, even though it's set in 2019, right? The original film, which is quite funny. I can't remember Los Angeles looking exactly like that in 2019. But basically, we do have huge problems, right? We have a mounting. Experts are telling us this as well. This isn't some conspiratorial nutty thing that's coming from the weird corners of the internet that somehow gets spread on social media because of the way that misinformation gets spread on social media these days. This is coming from experts, and I still trust in experts who have devoted their lives to studying and researching these niche fields. And I think one of the major cultural issues we have as a society at present is the distrust of experts, right? I mean, there is a real anti-intellectualism that has developed in the world in general, the global world. Actually, it's not even just a phenomenon of the Western media and cultural space. It's a general trend in the world. There's a lot of reasons for that, but anyway, I'm rambling a bit now. So I do like the general idea of Solarpunk, of trying to think of radical, workable alternatives, because that is, well, I mean, basically, if we don't do that, then it probably will be just a bunch of minority of technological billionaires and tech platforms that will dictate our future. I mean, and I'm not saying this just to crap on Google. I mean, I use all these platforms every day, right? Like I use Netflix, I use Google, I use Facebook, Meta, whatever. I use Twitter, I use all these services. So, in a sense, yes, I'm a complete hypocrite for. I'm not a complete hypocrite for questioning that. Actually, I mean, obviously, these are just platforms. They're not. I think we've got stuck in a sort of mode of thinking to think that these platforms are in stasis, that this is the way the internet's going to be forever, and there is no chance of changing it, which is obviously false. I mean, look at the early internet. Look how fast that's evolved, and I mean, I know there's the Web 3.0 idea out there at the minute, but I'm not that impressed by the entire decentralized sort of libertarian trend of the Web 3 that I've seen. A lot of it just seems to basically just be a more convoluted way of siphoning off a lot of resources and assets and money for a small group of people. And like people will probably like be shouting like, "Oh, what's the alternative then? Everybody gets the same, crypto credit or whatever." Or, sort of like this sort of crypto communistic idea. And actually what I like about, for my initial reading, obviously, of Solarpunk is, no, it's not that simplistic, and it is actually somewhat optimistic, if not being, utopian. There's some people would definitely argue that Solarpunk is a utopian vision. Essentially, the idea of Solarpunk is that we distribute technologies in a way that's egalitarian, that communities become more cohesive. We still have technology, and obviously it's not like eco-primitivism sort of idea. It's more based around. There is a socialism aspect to it. It is more about broadening access to technology and so that people can self-actualize and all that sort of good stuff. Which I think actually is a good thing. I think the more people have open access to technology that can transform the world, the faster things will change for the better, actually. I think the more open access there is to information, the faster things will change. You could even look back in fairly recent history, someone like Aaron Swartz, who is a personal hero of mine, who did want to maintain open access, net neutrality, all that good stuff that a lot of internet activists have been fighting for a long time, which unfortunately in a lot of ways we've been losing that battle. Unfortunately, there's just not enough there's not enough in the popular imagination as to for people to figure out that open access in general to whether it be academic journals or people academics information is possibly part of the reason why we're in this mess with popularism, with really cranky ideas gaining a lot of mimetic sort of just basically being passed around like memes, and actually getting credence and this sort of anti-intellectualism that's been generally present in our culture for the last 10 or so years. You can look into Aaron Swartz. He's worth looking into. His Internet's Own Boy is a good starting point for that, obviously, and I'd encourage everybody to do that. But anyway, this is not a video about Aaron Swartz, as you should do your own research on him, though, because he was a great influential figure in my own life, and basically many technologists' lives. But yeah, anyway, so I'm a technologist in the respect. I'm an artist, creative thinker, and a developer. My work is programming, basically being a developer. My professional work is development. And one of the reasons I really like this, and this is quite a new trend, I think Solarpunk is quite a new literary genre / philosophical base of ideas, is it's about creating solutions. And that's the that's what we need to do as a culture, as a people, as everything else, is do the hard work. We need to take responsibility a bit for some of this now. Like I'm a millennial, and I feel like it's a good thing for people. Like, I've got a bit more experience now. I'm approaching 40, 4 more years, and I'm going to be 40 years old. Middle age, which is, I'm not too intimidated by it and all that, but I sort of feel like the entire journey, maybe of my 30s, has been really about gathering the knowledge and the data and sort of more experience as well. I was abroad for a few years to contribute meaningfully to this ongoing conversation and discourse around this. And I feel like I'm reaching a moment now where I've realised that I've been searching for this Solarpunk idea with and actually, funnily enough, came to it through Cyberpunk, which is almost the antithesis of Solarpunk's not ideology, but its base of ideas. Because Cyberpunk is dark, dystopian, neon lights, sort of like almost like noir sort of style, hyper accelerated into a more futurist aesthetic, right? Whereas Cyberpunk is, you could say it's sort of hippie-ish in a sense. Maybe it's too idealistic, but I have been in search for an ideal for the last few years. Like, I've been immersed in technology, developing for technology, various different projects, startups, games, all sorts of things. Now I'm searching for meaningful projects to contribute to, whether it be writing, whether it be scientific, technological projects. And I feel like Solarpunk is probably a good base as a starting point to work from, because it's ecological. It considers our place in the biosphere, if you will, and also how we're going to actually meaningfully get off fossil fuels, which are going to mess up the planet if we keep on relying on too much for the next. Well, I mean, some people would argue, some experts even would argue, that it's already too late for us to change things. So we might as well try, right? And what's the alternative if we just accept that we're going to live in a dystopian corporate hellscape for the next, till the world dies completely. So yeah, that's been a real ramble. I mean, it's already been 12 minutes, right? I guess I'll probably leave it here. I mean, I feel like I've explored already quite a lot of my personal thoughts on Solarpunk and Cyberpunk and the differences, and also some of my own experience. So I'll leave that there, and if you've got any thoughts of your own, just leave them below. Obviously, like or subscribe if you like the content. My channel's bombing a lot recently. I'm actually putting a lot of effort into the videos now, which is a bit annoying, like a bit more effort into them, but I don't know, I think just algorithmically my stuff doesn't get shown to many people because I tend to be quite open, and I'm not hyper editing everything down. I'm just going to give you a very real perception of how I see the world and at a present time. But anyway, without warbling too much, if you like all that, then in ostensibly whatever level, we're not going to oversell this shit. You don't need me to talk down to you. Like or subscribe, or don't if you don't like it. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Been all Vortex, and give me your thoughts on Solarpunk, Cyberpunk, any decent reading materials if you have any suggestions, and that's it really.